we took 100 grand of our own money and gave it to a flipper in San Francisco. She was doing a flip project, and project went fine. We were going to pick up our measly $3,000 profit from that project. We went to the closing table, and she was like, you know what? I actually moved that money to a development project in Reno. And it's been 6 years, and we have not seen that $100,000, and we have not talked to her since. Right, so that money just disappeared.
Are you about to start a podcast or producing a podcast and tired of doing the editing yourself? We have produced over 1,000 daily shows, and the production team that I've created, they're now available to produce shows for you as well. We can do as little or as much as you need, from finding and communicating with guests, preparing introductions, to editing the audio and video. You will sound better, have a more professional presence, and be able to spend your time doing other valuable tasks on your business. Let me know you're interested by emailing me directly at whitney@lifebridgecapital.com. This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Calvin Chin. Calvin is the CEO of Zen Coast University, an online community and learning platform for real estate investors. He got into real estate to find a path to buy back his time and energy. Over a 5-year period, he was able to go from grinding in a 9-to-5 corporate job to having the financial freedom to choose to be a full-time real estate investor and has a portfolio of over 80 plus units in just 5 years. He has scaled from owning single-family homes to flipping to Airbnb to moving money through BRRRR method, as many of us know, to small multifamily homes and now apartment and commercial projects. He believes in helping people create wealth and getting time and energy back so they can give that knowledge back to their community. So just a very interesting conversation with Calvin here at GoBundance. And so you'll feel that just in the interview that there's just a lot of people around, obviously, but it was just incredible to meet Calvin. And you're going to hear about a massive mistake that he made, when he first got into real estate. And I just think this one mistake would have set most people back and made them quit. They would have been so sick at real estate that they just never would have done it again. But he did not quit there. And I'm so thankful that he did not, and that he's willing to share this story with you about this massive mistake that he made. And oh man, did he lose a lot? But you're going to hear about this. But I hope that it's encouraging to you that, hey, you can do this. You will make mistakes. And it doesn't have to be the end all, but he learned a lot, and he's pushed forward in a massive way and done very big things and is doing big things. I know you're going to learn a lot from Calvin today.
I know many of you have heard me talk about the importance of your why and having a mission that's going to keep you driven, something bigger than just that financial gain. And today with us is a guest that's going to help you understand this probably better than you've ever heard me talk about it. I'm looking forward to hearing him personally more about his story and even the way he is connecting other entrepreneurs now and helping them think about this as well. And again, we're going to get into it, but I want to remind you, we are recording remotely from GoBundance. I don't get to record remotely or in person too often, so this is very enjoyable for me as well. So Calvin, welcome to the show. I'm honored to have you as a guest.
Yeah, I'm honored to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things. I've done a little bit of reading about you and the things you have accomplished over the last few years. It's incredible. I want to get into it, and I know a big thing about you, is also your mission and your why and helping others to see that. And we get so focused on other things, right? Whether it's the real estate business or whether it's the financial goal or whatever, but those things are typically not going to keep you as motivated if there's not something else behind you. Tell the listeners a little more about who Calvin is, and let's jump into your entrepreneurial journey a little bit.
Yeah, I can absolutely share my story. And again, Whitney, man, just great being here, man. And thank you for having the time for us. For the most part, I grew up, my parents were first generation from China and kind of had this mindset, this kind of scarcity mindset around money, right? And I think from a lot of us, we're always taught from a young age that we have to get good grades so we can go to a good school. And then when we go to a good school, we can get a good job, and then we can climb the corporate ladder until we're 65 and we have a white picket fence and 2.5 kids and a golden retriever. And so that's what I always thought. That was always embedded into me, that was my mission, my path in life, was to just do that quote unquote American dream. And that's what I did, right? I got decent enough grades to get into a decent school and got a good job in tech after that. But when I arrived there, found out that this isn't what it's all cracked up to be. This can't be what my life's going to be all about. I worked at a company called Oracle, which is a big tech company back in the day. And when I got in there, I was like, is my life going to be defined by, on my tombstone of, I worked 25 years at Oracle, and that's what defined me as my identity, right? My legacy. And that scared the crap out of me, right? So, start to think about, all right, what are the ways that you can buy back your time and your energy, right? To me, those are the two biggest important assets in life, your time and your energy, right? The ability to be present with people. Looked at stocks, looked at cryptocurrency, looked at real estate. Stocks for me, I didn't sit at the boardroom at Apple, right? So I had no control, right? And I didn't like that. Cryptocurrency, I still don't know what the heck a Dogecoin is or a Shiba coin is, and I still don't want to know. So that was out. And then real estate, I was like, you know what? This actually makes sense. Like, this has been around since there were lords and knights where, lords were just landlords for the king, right? And it's tangible, it's physical, it actually makes sense. People always need housing. So I was like, you know what? Let's explore that. That actually makes sense to me. Going from there, I was kind of thinking like, all right, well, surrounding myself with the right people, reading the books, listening to the podcasts, things that everyone does. And, I think at that point, be vulnerable here, there was still, I was still struggling a lot with confidence issues. I had fear, like, I don't, do I actually know what I'm doing here? And so, me and my wife, we started to think about, how can we take the easy way out, right? Like, okay, so why don't we just give an investor money, be a real estate investor that way, right? So, we took $100,000 of our own money and gave it to a flipper in San Francisco. She was doing a flip project, and project went fine. We're going to pick up our measly $3,000 profit from that project. We went to the closing table, and she was like, you know what? I actually moved that money to a development project in Reno. And it's been 6 years, and we have not seen that $100,000, and we have not talked to her since. Right? So that money just disappeared.
Ouch.
Hard lesson. Yep.
Hard lesson right there. I pray you get that money back. Man, but a lesson learned, right? Expensive lesson, but you learned a lot. So I want to jump back a little bit. You mentioned numerous great things there, but even thinking about, your tombstone and thinking about what am I going to be defined by? And is it this corporate position, this sitting in this cubicle or wherever, is that what I'm going to be remembered by? And I think as so many people, you're so fearful of taking that leap, right? leaving this quote, security, the secure position and those benefits. It's hard to do that. It is hard to come to grips with that. But if you think, man, I only live one time, right? I only get one shot to do this. Is sitting behind this desk really going to do that for me? And what do I really have to lose?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you said a great word there that we all have is fear. Right? We fear if we leave, we're going to lose our golden handcuffs. We're going to lose our security. We're going to lose something, right? About having a W-2 be there for us, right? And I think we all go through fear. Heck, every deal that we ever do, I remember my very first deal, I had massive fear, right? What if I lose all my money? I look like an idiot.
You did lose all your money.
Exactly. So it happened. And I'm still standing, right?
What a great testimony right there. Like, you did lose a lot, but man, you didn't quit there.
And I think from that learning lesson, it was like, a lot of it was, what was the lesson, right? You said, hey, it was a really expensive learning. We really could have taken it two ways. We could have said, one, like, real estate sucks. There's a lot of sharks out here. I'm never going to do it again. Like, I'll just work my 9 to 5 for the rest of my life. Or two, which is what I'm really glad we did, was say, you know what? This experience, this situation sucks. But what do we learn here? And, I'm sitting here now 6 years later saying that was the best experience that ever happened to me. Because if that didn't happen to me, I wouldn't grown the toughness, learn the lessons that, we've never made the same mistake again, right? And you just kind of continue to do that. You just continue to not make the same mistakes again and over again until you've learned, and you gain more confidence. Yeah, and I think the last piece I'll say there is like the fear aspect. I've changed that perspective of I'm scared to jump into. I'm more fearful if I'm on my deathbed and I didn't take action.
That silence there is on purpose. I hope you heard that right there. That was incredible, right? What if the fear of not taking action? Oh, man, that's incredible. I loved what you said a minute ago. Losing the $100,000 was the best thing that ever happened to you. I mean, that's hard to grip, right? And I want to dive in there just a moment because many people lose on the first project or two in real estate, right? And many people quit there, right? And I remember on our first deal, we bought 2 triplexes, made a ton of mistakes, self-managed, tried to treat these tenants like they're our children as opposed to a business, and just got walked over, all those problems. But man, we didn't quit there. Right. But many people do quit there. And I think about the conversations my wife and I had for years after that. We would say, we said the quote, the apartments quote, like we just would both just cringe, like, oh, do we really want to get back into that? Is that really what we're going to spend our time on after this horrible experience? Right. Tell us a little bit about that, as far as your family, you lost this money. were they on board with you moving forward into real estate or continuing?
Well, I mean, it wasn't my family's choice. It was my choice, right? And, my choice was I still had to find a way to get out of this. And I still think real estate's the way. And, the mistakes I made there were, I just trusted someone that shouldn't have been trusted. And, I gave away all control. And so, we started to, learning lesson there was like our next deal was a deal that we actually did, right? Like we actually bought a deal for ourselves. Right, and managed ourselves and did all that stuff, and it was a property. It was a single family house in Dallas. And did we make a bunch of mistakes? Absolutely, right. We lost. We didn't project out for capex expenses. AC broke out the next year, and guess what? Cash flow was gone that year, right? But guess what? The second deal that we didn't make that same mistake. Right, the third deal didn't make that same mistake. Right, fourth deal, different mistakes, didn't make the same mistake the next one. Right, and just kept on scaling it up to gain more confidence. You can never fail if you don't quit. I started when I was 24 years old, so I always had the time on my side, right? So if I had the time on my side, I'd say, all right, well, I just have to consistently do this because I know this is possible. I've seen people do it, right? Now, how do I do it? We just kept on doing that and scaling until we get more confidence to do apartment complexes, right? And that's what we do now. But it took a long time to feel that confidence to say, I can do this and be able to raise money and be able to say confidently that, our systems are tight enough to say, I can take your money and double it.
So you're doing apartments now?
We're doing apartments now, yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't even know that. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I knew you were doing real estate and I didn't know that you were doing apartments now, but I wanted to back up. You were at Oracle. Tell us like when you took the leap to start in real estate, actually your own business, and maybe you were still working full time. How did you manage some of that? Yeah,
so I moved over to an tech job, and I think the big thing there was that was scary, right? The fear of losing the golden handcuffs, and I was in tech and I was making a good amount of money, right? And society will tell you, especially my parents, but like, why would you ever leave that? You've made it. You have the comfy job that if you just did that over and over again, you would make that good amount of money, right? Like we were making, $400K to $500K a year, and it's like, oh my god, like that's a good amount of money for a lot of people, right? And people looked at me crazy, like, well, you want to get out of this? But I knew that I wasn't fulfilled, right? Like I wasn't happy like there. I saw it as a vehicle to help me buy more real estate, sure, but it wasn't something that I was like, this is what I'm passionate about. I can't wait to sell a database and cloud storage, right? Like no one says that, right? But I knew that, hey, if I can create passive income, get my time and energy back, then eventually I could give back as well. And actually, that was something that wasn't automatic, right? So kind of back things up there, like we'd scale, we'd start to get into BRRRRs and Airbnbs and apartment complexes. Eventually, I think right now I think we ended last year at 167 doors, right, that we own, right? And I don't say that to say, hey, cool, look at me. I mean, there's many people that do a lot more than that, but I think in 2019, one of the big things learning lessons I learned was the passive income goal, right? Anyone in real estate investing says, hey, 10K passive income, like that'd be great. That's always like the first barrier, right? And that was like, when back in the day, like I was so achievement focused, I just wanted to hit that number. Oh, I hit that 10K passive income. I'll be set. I'll be happy. And in 2019, we hit that. And I thought my expectations, which were false, clouds apart, the angels would come down and harps would be playing. And it'd be like, Calvin, you did it. You're successful. You made it, right? You'd be happy. Whitney, guess what, man? That didn't happen, right? And nothing happened. The day after, nothing changed. Day after, nothing changed. And what happened to me was I actually went into this kind of like this complacent, comfortable depression, right? Where I was just on the couch eating Cheetos, watching Netflix. I think it was either Tiger King at the time or some show like that. And I was just comfortable, right? And I didn't have a North Star. And I was super depressed because I didn't really know what to do with my life because I thought that 10K a month was it. And what I figured out was there's a really good book called The Second Mountain where, the first mountain peak everyone is climbing is mostly about how do I get my financial picture, my life right? How do I get my fitness right? My family, my faith, my philanthropy. And most people never hit that mountain peak. But if you do, you can see into that second mountain peak, right? And that second mountain is all about legacy. It's all about impact, right? How can I make this world a better place? And what I found out was that, I was missing that piece of it. The impact, the second mountain. What me and my wife talked about was like, how can we give back, right? And we're like, well, this real estate thing has been okay to us. Like, what if we could teach other people the same path and they can create passive income so that they can go out and teach their kids and their family and their church community, right? And then their church community teaches their family and their friends and their cousins, right? And then there's a compound effect of impact that we're making. And that got me really excited, right? And I was like, what? I can get behind that. That actually gets me energized. That draws energy to me. That's what we created our mastermind Zen Coast University that does that, right? We teach people how to create passive income, but not just because they want to buy a Lambo, right? Kind of the same as your mission, not because they want to buy a boat, but more so that how can they give back? How can they get their time and energy to give back, right? Like a lot of our students, our members, they talk about, I want to open a nonprofit up. We have one student that his purpose was his mom's village in Jamaica got washed away. And his purpose is, I want to go back to Jamaica and rebuild that village. And he's crushed it, right? Because he has that purpose, right? And I think that is so magical and so special that really differentiates a lot of people that want to be real estate investors, but people that are really wealthy in life. right? Full rounded wealthy, not just rich, but wealthy.
Not just the dollars, right? So much more than just that. There's a couple things I wanted to point out. You mentioned you had an amazing income, right? For most, right? 400,000 to 500,000 a year. Most people would dream of that, right? And we'd definitely call you crazy for leaving that. And so it's just interesting. You know what? That wasn't fulfilling you. You didn't want to stay there. You didn't see that as like the end all. And what you were going to do, it wasn't fulfilling your mission. Even getting into real estate and moving forward in that, it's like, hey, you met that 10,000 a month, and that didn't do it either. There was something else. How did you find that? How did you figure that out for you? That's what this mission was. Remind me, married?
Yeah, just got married last year.
Oh, congratulations. I love hearing how even the spouse is involved on the mission, if she is, or what that looks like. I couldn't do it without mine, or couldn't have, and so I wonder how she's involved, and but then also how you found this mission. How did you say, you know what, that's something I can get behind. I'm excited about helping these people also do this.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm a big fan of you are the 5 people you surround yourself with. And even being a part of GoBundance, it's like you're able to level up and have conversations with people. And I think a lot of us seek that community aspect of like being able to talk about things vulnerably, things authentically. It's funny. One of my students like talked to us. He was like, dude, like my fiance within 20 minutes of meeting you guys felt like she knew you more than some of her best friends. Isn't that crazy? Because you can have a deeper level of conversation. It's not like, hey, what's my fantasy football team looking like? Or, you see that game today. It's more like, hey, like, what are your goals and aspirations? Like, what is your vision in your family life? How can we help you get there? And I think to me, in terms of purpose, like if you find your purpose is always the foundation, right? You have your purpose, right? Then you can kind of map out your priorities, and you can see, and then people see the productivity and profitability up top, right, of the iceberg. But no one sees the bottom piece. And like seeing people that have the purpose, like for you, like, your purpose is, I want to do commercial real estate, not just to make money, but to be able to give back and help people adopt kids that financially maybe not be able to afford it. That's an awesome mission, right? If you have a purpose-driven mission, it's going to be way better than achievement-driven missions, because we've been there, man. Like, you probably have too, man. Like, where it's like, you get to the point where you've made the money. You think that that's supposed to buy you happiness. It doesn't. That was one of my limiting beliefs, is I thought money would buy me happiness, but it doesn't. You have the nice car, you have the nice house, great. Now what? What does that really do? For me, relationships and human being to human being connections are way more. We just had a retreat, man, where, last session, we kind of sit in a circle and we give gratitude, right? We say, hey, I'm grateful for this person because of X, Y, Z. I was bawling in tears, right? Because of how much people care about each other, right? And to me, like just being able to bring people together like that, I think that's so important. I think that a lot of people miss that. And it's not just like, and yeah, sure, the vehicle that we're trying to use is real estate. But really what happened was that real estate was a vehicle to bring everyone together, to become lifelong friends, to become deeper connections. It was a story for me, like, me and my little sister, we were close growing up. We're only 2 years apart. And she went to school in New York. I'm in California. And so we kind of lost touch a little bit. She moved back and, she lived with us a little bit. So we're starting to get back in touch. And, one of the things that we did last year was she's been so like inspired and like saw like, man, like Calvin's doing real estate. Like he got out of his job, right? I would love to do that to get my time and energy back. And so, I was going to Texas and we have a short-term rent or long-term rental out there that we were converting into a short-term rental. And I was like, hey, why don't you come with me? Like, let's go do a trip out there. And it was the first time that we ever had a one-on-one trip. Yeah, we were working. I put it air quotes up at working, but really we were hanging out. And real estate was a vehicle for us just to be able to hang out and talk through, stuff like that, business stuff like that. And now my little sister and I are closer than ever, right? So it's a vehicle, right, to be able to use what you want, with who you want to spend time with who you want, doing whatever you want.
Love that. Tell us a little bit about how almost the value of time freedom, how that's changed your day-to-day life. Right now that you've built this freedom, you almost can't even put a value on that, right? Even that time with your sister, right? That wouldn't have happened if you hadn't taken those risks and stepped out there and made some of these things happen. How does that time freedom change, your life? And now, you're watching it happen for numerous other people as well.
Well, I mean, you got to focus on things that actually bring you energy. And I think that's the biggest part. I mean, in my corporate job, I was doing so many things that were just draining me, corporate call, forecast call, here we go again. Like, it's like, why am I even on this call? Like, and, like you said, like, there's only one life that we have. And I'm spending 5 hours a month on calls like this that are draining me. They're not bringing me energy. They're not really valuable, right? It's just some kind of corporate jargon, right, if you will. And so, the difference of cut and paste is more like you get to spend time with the things, doing what you want to do, right? And that gives you energy, it gives you fulfillment, right? I wake up whenever I want to, I take calls when I want to, I go to conferences when I want to, right? I go skiing when I want to. You're able to make an impact when you want to. You can choose to talk who you want to. You can choose to partner with who you want to. And I think that's even a big part as well as, as you even get in apartment complexes, in commercial deals, like one of the big things is like finding your own superpower. I love finding deals. I love structuring deals. I love raising money and doing all that stuff and using creative financing, but I hate operating. What I've done this last year, I have found partners that love doing that. It's kind of like the who, not how. Like you kind of outsource the things that they love, and that brings them energy, and you're doing the things that then you love, right? And now you're running a business, or you're only doing things that give you energy. And I think the life in real estate and apartment complexes, the same principles apply. Try to do things that you love doing and bring you energy, and you'll never work a day in your life.
I love that. Who, Not How. I've read that book, Dan Sullivan, and I can't remember the guy that actually wrote it, and I think Dan co-authored it. But great book. It's going to help you think about what Calvin just said. It's so important. What gives you energy? What do you want to be doing? Hey, how can you focus on that? But oftentimes the mentality is the opposite of that, because you got to give some of that away. You got to bring these people on. You got to give something away. And most people are like, no, I want to keep as much to myself as I can. What did that look like for you?
Well, it's that abundance mindset, right? I mean, I used to have that scarcity mindset. One of my limiting beliefs was I have to do everything myself. And to a point, you should try to do everything yourself first, right? Just to figure out what you do like and what you don't like. But once you figure that out, I mean, like, your life is going to be so much easier, because what are we doing this for? What are we doing real estate for, right? It's to get your time back. You don't want to be drained by doing stuff that you hate doing, right? So again, if you're doing the who, not how strategy, then you're able to just focus on the things that you like. And I promise you, your life's going to be a lot easier. You're going to be a lot happier and going to have a lot more fun doing it, because this is something that my wife tells me all the time, is that anytime I feel down, and in every real estate deal, there's some kind of challenge. There's always something that comes up. It's a fire that you have to put out. And my wife was like, just enjoy the journey, right? I'm like, you're right. Like, I love my partners because they're fun to hang out with. We joke around all the time, and we're making money along the way, and we're making our investors money too. And then investors, we love hanging out with them too, because it's fun. Like, we talk shop, we joke around, right? But you got to keep it loose and you got to keep it fun, because at the end of the day, like, this is what life's all about. It's too much to be serious all the time, but obviously you want to be able to do it right? So do it right, but also make it fun as well.
Tell us about finding that partner, or maybe even what you looked for in these partnerships. When you figured out what you didn't want to do, right? And you found people that are really good or passionate at those things. It energizes them to do those things. I get this question so often about my partner and my business partner. How did you find them? And how did you determine that it's worth taking that risk to partner with them as well?
I think it's all about going to events like this. Like, we're at a Go Abundance event right now, but it's like you just talk to a lot of people. For me, it was just talking to a lot of people. And again, like, I think internally what you got to figure out yourself is, okay, what do I like, what I not like? So, doing it yourself. So, our first couple of deals, we did our own deals. We did, soup to nuts, the whole thing, right? And I quickly found out what I didn't like. Part of my vision for the year, my manifestation, was I got to find a partner that loves doing X, Y, Z. And then subconsciously, you kind of do it, and you start talking to people naturally. Like, you always, in my experience, like, you always just find someone, because like your subconscious is working at it to find that person. And naturally, it's just happened, like, organically. It's not like I'm posting on Facebook or Craigslist saying, hey, who's a partner that loves doing operations and blah, 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 blah. Maybe that works for some people. But for me, it's like, I just go, I try to put myself in the right room, and I just ask questions with people, and I just have conversations, genuine conversations that I'm curious about. That just leads to partnerships. I'll give you an example. Like, one of my good friends that I'm partnered with right now, I've known him for years. We've always talked, and we was in San Diego with a couple of my pod, my friends, and we're like, hey man, when you come down here, you live here, like, why don't you come down here and meet us for breakfast, right? And we just started talking, joking around, right? And then, like, I forgot exactly how it happened, but we just started talking more seriously. And he's like, yeah, like, I have a property management business, an operations business ready, but I just can't. I hate structuring deals. And I was like, dude, I love that. That's exactly what I love. And you're like, hey, like, maybe there's something here, right? And you just kind of have that natural conversation, and now we're partners, right? And I love hanging out with him, because we just joke around, have fun, and we're serious when we need to be serious, and we'll crunch the numbers when we need to. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's just fun doing it too. Yeah,
just fun doing it too. That's awesome. I love how you even highlighted how you all just have fun together doing it, right? And joking around, just spending that time together. But I think it's more fun too, because you're not doing those things that are dragging you down.
And vice versa, right? So it's like, hey, cool. Like, I don't have to deal with that bull crap. You don't have to deal with that bull crap, right? And it's like, I'm glad. Because like, for me, I'll do the deal. I'll find it. We'll structure it, raise the money, close. Obviously, I'll run the numbers, underwriting, all that stuff. And then I'm like, all right, cool. On you now, man. And then now he's like, all right, here we go. I got to do all this stuff, construction, blah, 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 operations. I don't even want to hear it. We'll talk about it, but like, you just give me updates. I don't need to, like, I'm not going to micromanage you. You do your thing. I trust you. Like, do your thing.
What is Agent Ignite? Are you wondering how you can make more money and create a competitive advantage for yourself and your clients in this ever competitive real estate industry? Agent Ignite is the key to furthering your knowledge, establishing your expertise, and positioning yourself as a go-to expert. They deliver new and relevant knowledge so you can expand your clientele, close more deals, and ultimately increase income. Each month features a new guest speaker who will deliver on what is most relevant for your business. As a member of DMAR's Market Trends Committee, an avid champion for building wealth through real estate, and a self-proclaimed data geek, Nicole will share market trends and commentary that will add value to you and your clients. Staying up to date on industry statistics, coupled with niche topics delivered by industry experts, will help you motivate your buyers and sellers and make you more money. Sign up for the next Agent Ignite session at theruthteam.com/events. That's awesome. That is so crucial. My business partner and I met at a conference. Actually, somebody just earlier today was asking me about how we met, because they were looking at a partnership. And it's like, we met at a conference. I heard things that, like, it was obvious he was skilled at some things that I was not as skilled about, or that it was just hard for me to want to do those things. Right. And so I approached him the last night of the conference and was just very open and said, hey, we've been praying for a business partner and you seem to fit the bill. However, it doesn't mean we're going to partner, but I'd like to get to know you. And so we did. We got to know each other. I even went and spent time at his house, with he and his family, just to purposely get to know him. Because it's a big decision, right? I had said no to many people who had asked to partner. But we just aligned in so many ways, but had very complementary skill sets.
It's just like dating, right? It's like you kind of date them, you kind of get to know them better, and you kind of see how they work. You ask around, hey, what do you think about this guy? And that's also why I think that the brand piece is so important, because you don't want to say, hey, what do you know about Calvin? Oh, he sucks. Don't work with him. Then it's like, man, that's terrible. You'll never have fine partners. I'm always in the mindset of anyone that you ever talk to or partner with, you should find a way to make it positive no matter what, because you never know if that person's going to come down the road and be that next partner for you again, right? In any relationship, and even at this conference like this, it's I'm always in the mindset of all right, I just want to provide value, right? If I could just give without any expectation in return, you never know what's going to happen down the road. I've only been here I just got into today, or I've been here for a week, but I already got into good one today, and I got stopped by 5 people that were just hey man, friends I've met at the conference before, or I've seen at other meetups and stuff, and just picking my brain about stuff. It's go button talk, hey, we should go partner on a deal. I'm oh yeah, we can talk about it more, right? And you kind of start that conversation more, and it's just cool that just happens naturally. It's just being a good human being and being someone that has the morals of, I'm not trying to screw anyone over. That person that took $100K, that person was intentionally trying to go out and basically find people they can shark on, right? And I never want that for anyone. And so, that was kind of the learning lesson that has served me well from then, is just be a good person. Be a good person, you'll attract good people, and you'll have good business that way too.
That's awesome. And I would highlight, you were taking action, right? You were putting yourself out there. You're going to conferences. You are purposely going up and meeting strangers to have those conversations. That's a very fearful thing for most people, or a lot of people, right? Is putting yourself out there. But you took action. So tell us, Calvin, what's been one of the biggest challenges for you, say, over the last 12 months?
I think the biggest challenge for me has been certainly with the identity piece, right? It's you're always constantly growing, and you always change your identity so much. I remember last year, obviously December, it's January right now, and we always have, me and my wife take December off, and kind of just reflect back on the year. And oh my God, you just think about 6 months ago or 12 months ago, who you were as a person, not what you accomplished, but who you are as a person. It changes drastically. The challenge for me always is, who am I trying to step into this year? And just knowing what that path looks like, because who I was a year ago when I wrote my vision, totally different. Now, something different. What's new? And to me, just being able to step into that and just have a clear path of what that looks like is one of my biggest challenges right now. It's just we get a lot of shiny object syndrome. I think we all do. I can do that. And we overestimate the time that we have. I think I have so many great ideas, right? That I'm oh man, I want to execute that. But you don't have the time in the world to do that. So it's all right, let's just focus on the one thing, right? Kind of reeling that back of there's 5 different things that I'm really big on this year and I want to do. And actually just even have a conversation with one of the guys out there. I'm that's something I could add as well. But it's just focusing on what's the one thing right now that just you can get done. Because what I struggle with a lot is you just put so much on your plate that you don't get anything finished, right? Because you're just so excited, right? A lot of high functioning people are like, I can do anything, right? And so a lot of it just building the systems to automate stuff, right? And make it more seamless so that you can focus on more of the stuff.
Yeah, I love this. Even that you and your wife take the month of December off and you reflect, you look back, you think about who was I 6 months ago. Tell us how that changes, January. Right? How do you use that? Because I love that, and I'm going to tell you why. I call it thinking time. I recommend this book all the time on the podcast and other podcasts, but it's The Road Less Stupid.
I was just talking on a podcast, and they recommend. I know that book. Yeah, is it Keith Cunningham? Yeah.
Yeah, Keith Cunningham. He talks about thinking time. And that was just been crucial for my wife and I. It's like thinking time. Do you just have time to think? And I feel like, especially at first, I feel like, well, that's just so unproductive. I'm just going to sit somewhere and do nothing, right? Oh, it's hard to sit myself down and just not do anything, but just, hey, let's think and reflect. But it's so important. And I think even I go back to the fall that my wife and I was practically doing 2 full-time jobs, my wife and not in real estate, but my wife and I were walking on the beach and we were just like, is this getting us where we're going, where we want to go? I mean, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, it was obvious once we asked that question that it just wasn't. And within 2.5 months, we sold our house, our farm, and we're just making massive decisions. It changed everything for us because of that downtime on the beach, just no agenda.
This is the tale as old as time. We sold the farm, getting into real estate. I love that. But yeah, I mean, to your point, Whitney, it's I think a lot of the mistakes that entrepreneurs make is they don't take time for themselves to just unwind and just not do anything. Because that's when the best ideas are. I mean, I took that time to really just focus on my vision, what I really wanted this year, versus you're going to get so bogged down with so much of the tactical stuff on the day-to-day basis that if you don't take that time, you'll always be bogged down by some tactical stuff. Yeah, I agree with you. I came back. We went to this trip. We went to Hawaii. And I got to just hike around, surf, all that stuff, and just lay on the beach. And I came back from that trip way more energized. I was kind of losing the energy at the end of the year. I was like, hey, maybe we just take a year off, kind of thing, right? And I came back from Hawaii all right, no, screw that. I'm about to hit the ground running, right? I got all these great ideas, and I can't believe it's only been 2.5 weeks in January. It's oh my God, even the 2.5 weeks in January has been go, 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 right? But all stuff that I'm excited about that I get energy from.
That's awesome. And, I know that you've done single family homes, you've done flipping, Airbnbs, the Burr method, multifamily apartments. I mean, you've this gradual transition or growth, I think, or maybe you're still doing a little bit of all that. I'm not sure. But tell us, looking back, doing all those things, would you have done it differently? Would you have started with apartments, or are you thankful for that how you progressed? What would that look like if you could talk to yourself, 5 years ago? What would you say?
I mean, I think most people will say, hey, you want to go bigger, faster. I would agree with that too, but I'm thankful for the journey that we had because, without losing 100K, without doing all the single families, without doing the first Burr and the first, small multi to first apartment complex, we wouldn't be where we were at. So, I can't say that. There's always something that you can change. So if I reflect back on the mistakes we made, right? The turning point for me, I remember was when we were doing a Burr. It was a single family Burr. I think I bought it for $70K. I put $25K into rehab. It was worth $155K. Pulled my money out, and then it was cash flowing $100 after that a month. And I was like, holy crap, I just spent 6 months on this deal. I'm cash flowing $100. And I was like, I'm sitting there counting all right, how many of these deals do I have to do to get there? And I was like, it's going to take me forever. Fast forward, we basically do apartment complex Burrs essentially, right? And I was like, if I do one of these deals, I'm cash flowing $4 or $5 a month after we get our original capital back out. Why wouldn't I do that? So getting over the fear obviously was the toughest part of doing that. And even also the self-worth of am I worthy to be someone am I even the person that can do one of those deals? And once you break that barrier, you did it. And it wasn't hard, right? And you're like, oh my God, I probably spent less time actually doing some of these apartment complex deals versus that single family Burr, right? And I'm like, wow, that was eye-opening to me of wow, it takes the same amount of effort, right? Actually, probably less. The numbers are more logical. I like the systems that are better. The only thing is just getting over the fear that maybe there's an extra comma in there, right? And if you get over that, then man, it's magical.
I'd say we could even go back to where you were talking about you struggled with confidence issues. You say, do I really know what I'm doing? And I think we've all done that. Doing a single family home or flips, oftentimes I think we think, well, there's less risk in that. I'll get my feet wet. We'll gradually do this growth, right? And I'll talk about this guy often. I was at a meetup and I got to know a lot of people in this meetup. This is before we started in commercial real estate. And I just had very few small multifamily properties at the time. And I told this guy, we're going to start doing commercial real estate and apartment buildings. And he owned lots of commercial real estate in the local town there, a very successful entrepreneur. But he pulled me aside out of care for me. He did. He pulled me aside, and I'll never forget. He said, "Now, Whitney, most people start with like a single family home and a duplex, and he was kind of doing this motion where, and they grow, right? It takes some time. And I would say there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. And he approached me out of care, and I really appreciated that. But I'm so thankful that, hey, we pursued apartment buildings quickly, after I learned about the syndication business. And not only that, I learned that not only had one or two people built wealth in real estate, but hundreds of thousands of people, in apartment buildings. So I'm like, okay, I can do this too. I can figure this out. But what gave you the confidence eventually to step out there like that?
It was just surrounding yourself with the right people. You started to see, in my network at the time, when I was doing residential, there weren't many people doing apartments. Like, it was something that it was like this mystical fairy tale of like, oh yeah, eventually you can get these apartment complex or commercial deals, and it's so awesome. And then I started putting myself in the room where I was the dumbest person in the room. Being the dumbest person in the room is awesome, because you get to see what everyone's doing and be inspired by them and say, whoa, actually, this is possible. One of my first, before I had done any apartment complexes, first GoBundance event I ever did was in Oakland, California. I went to my buddy's place. It was in GoBundance, and walk in the room. I'm scared, right? Because I'm intimidated, all that stuff. Walk in the room, David Green and David Lauber, who's a good friend of mine now. That's also a badass, right? And they're sharing their one sheets, right? So one sheets, they're sharing their numbers. They're basically going open kimono and like, hey, here's all my numbers, right? I'm sitting there like, oh my God, these are huge numbers, and just feeling very intimidated. But it was great to be in that room, because you're like, this is possible, right? And then fast forward, I've been a GoBundance for 2.5, 3 years now. So fast forward 3 years, we went back to that same house to do our goals and do a cold plunge and stuff. And I was like, man, I'm at those numbers or past those numbers now. And it's like, whoa, that's crazy. Like what a couple of years will do to you if you're around the right people that say this is possible, right? And it's like the 4 minute mile. Like, it's impossible until someone sees someone run a 4 minute mile. Then it's very possible. Not everyone does it.
Incredible. I hope the listeners are encouraged by that right there. It's surrounding yourself with the right people, right? Getting the naysayers out of your, I hate to say out of your life. It may be good friends of yours. However, you got to know how to approach what they're saying, right?
It's a different relationship, right? And, I'm sure you've gone through the same thing when it's like, I had a lot of friends that were like, what are you doing? Like, that's crazy. And yeah, I wouldn't say I've lost touch with those friends. I just know that, and advice that one of my mentors had given me was that they're different types of friends now. They're your lunch friends. They're your 10-minute friends. These are your vacation friends. These are your growth friends. Right? So it's just like different buckets that you put your friends in now, right? They don't lose them, but you know that if you're going to hang out with those lunch friends, and yeah, maybe you are going to talk about fantasy football, but if you're going to talk about have lunch with your growth friends, man, you're going to be talking about, okay, what's your net worth? What's your vision for the year? Like, how are you doing these creative financing deals? Like, how do we make that even bigger, right? So it's a different conversation, and just being prepared for those conversations with proper expectations.
No doubt about it. It's such an important point. When I changed my morning routine, I started educating myself, but I also started going to conferences and meeting people who were doing it right. We were called crazy by more than one person for selling our farm, selling our house, because it looked like the house in the farm that most people would always dream of, and we dreamed about it as well. We loved that place, right? And so our family's like, wait a minute, you got the best job that anybody in our family's ever had, and you're gonna quit? Like, that was so hard for my network, my people that were around me to understand at that time, right? And so anyway, such a great point. Couple final questions. What's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
Yeah, so my theme that I have for my life, it's a phrase really that I would contribute the most success to, is being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations, you're going to grow. I'm uncomfortable buying my first apartment complex. Hell yeah, I am. But it made me grow the most. Actually, even my first real estate deal, was I uncomfortable? Absolutely, right? You get better and better. So just putting yourself out there, going to a conference, going into that house in Oakland, like, even though you're the smallest person in that room, like, just be uncomfortable with that, because the more uncomfortable you are, the more growth you're going to have.
Incredible. No doubt about it. I remember that same meetup. I'll never forget when the leader of the group asked me to speak. And I'd had like 6 units at the time up to my, I thought, I'm not the person that's crazy, but I don't even remember what I read, but I was exposing myself to other people who were doing big things. And I knew that I needed to commit to that. I knew that I needed to quickly say yes. And that was difficult. Even right then, I had to that nervousness comes up inside of me, right? And I said, sure, I'll do it. That was so intimidating to me at the time. Speaking in front of that group, they asked some hard questions that I didn't have all the answers to, but I grew so much because of that. Got to put yourself out there. You got to just be able to be fearful and not worry about it really, but to move forward. How do you like to give back? And maybe you can speak more, about the mastermind, Zen Coast University, but any way you want to highlight, how do you like to give back?
Yeah. So I think, when we, got to the point, I think I told you the story, it was like, $10K a month passive income. That didn't happen. And that's why we created the mastermind. But for us, it was all about that second mountain. Like what can we do to give back to people? And if we can teach people how to invest in real estate, then they're going to be able to live a more fulfilled life, a more abundant life, and they can give back to more people. So, for us giving back right now, we're absolutely we want people, and our slogan is, how can we help people create passive income so that they can create passive impact? Right. And that's what our community is all about, is create a network that wants to help each other out, that they understand. It's not like a YouTube course, hey, we're going to help you become so rich that you can buy the Lamborghini of your dreams. Right. Nah, dude, that's, maybe you're happy for 3 months, but that's not really fulfilling. Right. We want people that, are hey, I want to do this so that I can go back to Jamaica and rebuild that village, to go start this nonprofit, to do this kind of things, right? And that to me empowers people to go take action. That gets people out of bed. That gets people to say, I need to become a real estate investor because of my mission.
I love that. And even what you say, that's what gets you out of bed. That's what gets others out of bed. Once you've made that money, it's you even mentioned it. It's not getting you out of bed anymore, right? Calvin, it's been incredible to meet you and to have you on the show. Your story is so encouraging. I know there's so many I get questions every week from listeners who have, you're going to answer their questions, right? All these limiting beliefs, all the, from the JOB of the amazing income and hey, it still wasn't enough. And you still left it. You still pursued something else. You even still struggled with confidence, just like we all do, right? But you surrounded yourself with the right people. But man, you've gained time freedom. Now even the passive impact. Is that what you called it?
Passive impact. You got it.
I love that. Passive impact. I love that. And so just appreciate how you're giving back and your heart towards that. Tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you.
Yeah, easy to get in touch with me. Just go to our website, zencoastuniversity.com. Or you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Calvin Chin, REI, and Facebook Calvin Chin.
Awesome. Calvin, honored again. Have you on the show. Pleasure to meet you. Look forward to seeing your success and maybe having you back in another year or two and just talking about it again. But I hope you have a blessed day.
Yeah, love to come back. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you for being a loyal listener of the show. Please subscribe and share it with your friends. We want to help you become the passive investor you've always wanted to become, but also the operator you've always wanted to become. We want to be the number one resource for your real estate investing journey. But go to lifebridgecapital.com where you can start investing in real estate today.